Back, we're on Let's Have It Out. Remember to tweet us or tag us on social media with hashtag LHIO. George on WhatsApp says, quote, artificial intelligence is in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, inevitably impacts negatively on job creation initiatives owing to its disastrous effects on job losses. For the South African labour market, it's adapt or die. Thank you, George. And yes, I agree, but it's like everything else in the world. We need to adapt. That is what is so remarkable about human beings. You need to adapt, or literally, like the Neanderthals, you will die out. We have McLean on the line from Johannesburg. Hi, McLean. What is your question or comment?
Yeah, thank you very much, and a great discussion with your guest. I think one of the key things that I wanted to just perhaps bounce off to your guest is that, the AI and fourth industrial revolution are a reality, and as he has already touched on, we are right in the middle of the AI. Now, are we ready as a country in terms of the skills to be able to take full advantage of the fourth industrial revolution? And what kind of skills and capabilities do we need to start to be teaching young people so that we can be able to generate the new jobs of the future?
That's a good question, and I'm going to come to Arthur in a minute, but my first answer is probably not. We're not in a position to take advantage of the end stages of the third industrial revolution, which is the kind of silicon-based computer revolution. What we need are more people studying to be engineers, more people being computer programmers, more people having digital skills, be it social media or how to use word processing and Excel and spreadsheets software, that kind of thing. I think the problem is we don't really know what the future is going to be bringing. We don't really know what the skill sets are, so people are not engaging with them. And I think the biggest problem, McLean, that you identified is that people are change averse. They are scared of taking a risk into doing something new and different, and especially when you're not entirely sure what it is. But we just don't have a choice, do we, Arthur? If we don't engage with this new way of doing things, we're going to be left behind.
We absolutely don't have a choice. And the reason that we are being left further and further behind is precisely because of the attitude that this newfangled stuff, this AI and robotics, is going to take away jobs. Therefore, we have to resist it. And that's exactly why we get left behind, because the rest of the world is embracing it. We have to embrace it or be left behind and lose even more jobs. Our economy will suffer, and that also will destroy jobs. In fact, far more jobs are destroyed by economic mismanagement and economic sloth, you might say, in terms of policy making, than by technology. I would argue that technology makes it possible to, in fact, quickly learn new skills and take or be able to tackle new jobs that wasn't possible in the past.
Indeed. I mean, let's just look at education, because, of course, education is one of the most pressing things that we need in the world right now. There's Khan Academy, there's Wikipedia, there is Coursera. You can do any of the courses at some of the major universities around the world, the big names, Stanford, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge. They put all of these courses online. Sure, you pay for them, but the fact of the matter is that through your smartphone or through the web, you can learn just about anything. That technology wasn't available when Arthur and I were kids, although Arthur was a kid a lot longer than I was. We're going to go to a comment from Felix on WhatsApp, and he says, artificial intelligence is a great concept for human development, but it's also preparation for the new world order. Receive it. It's your stimulation for globalization. Yes, thank you, Phoenix. I mean, I just think we've seen waves of technology, waves of new ways of doing things. Remember that old phrase, the global village? And that was just being used to describe the fact that you could make a telephone call from Johannesburg to New York, and you didn't have to wait 30 minutes to book it. We're starting to see so much more of the pace of development, and that's of course, as Arthur was talking about earlier, the rapid change of what is happening with the so-called fourth industrial revolution, because things are just moving faster and faster and faster. So fast that we may find ourselves left behind. Is that a possibility?
Definitely, we could find ourselves in a situation where the buggy and horsewhip makers of the 1910s found themselves when they said that horses are still the dominant form of transport in American cities, and the makers of horsewhips and horse buggies thought that their jobs were secure forever. And in fact, they tried to resist the arrival of the Model T Ford. Within a decade, horses on the streets of New York was only a mode of transport for police personnel.
Or tourists.
Even tourists. Buggies around Central Park, you still have those today, but there's probably one of those for every 1 million cars on the road.
Indeed, I don't think there were many people taking a selfie with an automobile in 1906, were there? I'd like to just look at some of the positive stuff, because one of the other things that I find really interesting is that one of the research projects Google was doing was around looking at people's eyesight, and I have to get this right, diabetes mellitus, which according to the World Health Organization, there were nearly 32 million people affected by this disease in India in 2000. And this is estimated to rise to nearly 80 million by 2030. And it's the largest number of any nation in the world. And 2/3 of all type 2 and type 1 diabetes are expected to develop what's called diabetic retinopathy over a period of time. And that means people will go blind. What Google has been able to do, or Google researchers, train artificial intelligence, interestingly using the software behind Google Photos to recognize the possibilities by looking at someone's iris at the same pace that an ophthalmologist could. Now, that's about 15 minutes, but the Google computer doesn't sleep. Now, this is a real impact of artificial intelligence keeping people from going blind by spotting before this happens. These are the kinds of advances that we should hear more about, don't you think?
That's a great example, definitely. And when you talk about 50 minutes or the same pace as the ophthalmologist, in a few years' time, it'll be a few seconds. So you'll be able to do mass diagnoses at a tiny fraction of the cost. Another great example is that's just been announced in the past week or so is AI being used to identify Alzheimer's through imagery, through facial recognition software, very advanced facial recognition software. You can, in fact, almost predict early onset of Alzheimer's, and you can start treating it at a time when it is still treatable. So all of these medical issues are going to come to the fore in AI, and there's two areas, in fact, where AI is going to be a massive revolution. The one is in medicine, and doctors will resist it, but in fact, it's going to be a massive augmentation for doctors. It'll make them far better at their job, and it's hopefully going to bring down the cost of medicine because of the preventative aspect of AI in medicine. And the other area is in cars, self-driving cars of the future, which scares people as well. So I won't talk about that yet.
Yes. Keep your fear-mongering at bay. In fact, as it happens, we have a doctor on the line from Cape Town. Dr. Colin, what is your answer? What is your question or comment?
On the line from Cape Town, Dr. Colin, what is your answer? What is your question or comment?
Well, just while Dr. Carlin turns off his television so you can't hear my voice echoing in the background, you know, one of the interesting things about the AI threat to jobs that Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, mentioned is well, if jobs start going to computers, who's going to pay tax? It's a very good point. Dr. Carlin, you're back with us. What is your question or comment?
My comment is as follows. I'm fully cognizant of the incredible changes that artificial intelligence is going to make to our manipulation and use of knowledge. But I'd like to caution against the enthusiasm for artificial intelligence by ignoring the importance of scientific theory which exists behind contemporary knowledge. And therefore, artificial intelligence cannot recreate the theory which has been built up over hundreds of years. You may remember that Sir Isaac Newton said, "It is only by standing on the shoulders of giants that I've seen further." And we need to remain cognizant of the incredible build-up of theory which our education currently is able to use and manipulate.
Okay, well, I think that's a very good point because, of course, it is that deeper understanding. It is that intuition. It is a greater sense of the bigger picture that is what our human brains bring to it that computers don't right now. And it's the kinds of things like intuition, like art, like culture and creativity that are very hard for a computer to replicate. It's those kinds of jobs. Of course, we never got to the jobs that are going to be safe, but they're definitely going to be that. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you to Arthur Goldstuck. And that's it for this edition of Let's Have It Out. Remember to keep up the conversation on social media using the hashtag LHIO. And tomorrow night, sports journalist Tabisa Musai will be in this chair, and you don't want to miss that conversation. I, for one, want to know what he thinks about the Springboks' chances on Saturday. I'm Toby Shapshak. Thank you for joining us. Good night.